welcome to Past, Present, and Future, or Three Questions, the podcast where we learn about people's career journeys, how they got to where they are today, and where they'd like to go to next. I'm Parrots Cohen, a technologist and a wordsmith, and in my time in industry, I've been fortunate to work with both large companies and small startups alongside a number of very talented and hardworking individuals. This podcast is some of my conversations with them, where we learn about their journeys and what motivates them. If you'd like to be in the podcast, please feel free to reach out. You don't have to have a certain level of seniority or a number of years of experience. We all have something to share and learn from each other. If you'd like to sponsor the podcast or get involved in the collaboration, we'd also like to hear from you. All right, looking forward to our journey together as we learn more about each other and enrich ourselves in the process.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another amazing episode of the show. Today we have Annie and Michael on the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having us, Brett. It's really cool to be here.
All right, we're going to kick things off. We're going to talk about the beginnings of your career. And if you want to rock, paper, scissors it as to who goes first, let's learn a little bit more about the beginning of your career.
Michael, you can go first.
Yeah, so we're going to go in timeline order because I graduated college before you, Annie.
Mm-hmm.
So Annie and I are married. We have a company together, and we were dating when we were graduating from college, and we got married shortly after college. So we're coming up on a quarter century. So I got a management information systems degree, which is a business degree where back in the day, this was like around 2000, 2001. I learned COBOL and Visual Basic. So I didn't get a real computer science degree. And I graduated 3 weeks before 9/11. But like the market was a lot like it is today. In the first part of my school, we were thinking that it was in the .com explosion, .com bubble that we now call it. And I was thinking that it was going to be easy to get a job. Everything was going to be great. And by the spring of 2000, I was a junior and things were falling apart. And I also realized that I wasn't prepared for what I wanted to do in career, which was more serious software development. So it was a lot like today. And there were two lessons that I learned back then that I think are applicable to people today. First thing is in that spring of 2000, when I started realizing that I wanted to get into higher technology and didn't really have the education, I just started reading books and educating myself and realizing that my education was my thing, the thing that I owned and the thing that I could take advantage of. Like I'm the constant in my entire life. And so I have to take it seriously. It's not somebody else is going to give me. And so I really hit the books hard in 2000, 2001. I read a lot of Martin Fowler stuff back in the day. And then as we got closer to 2001, this was before 9/11, where the economy really tanked even more. But the job market was terrible. And the other lesson that I learned was, I'm just going to focus on the next step that I need to take. I'm not going to focus on getting a job here or a job here. I'm going to work at a restaurant. I'm going to wait tables. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to move the ball forward on what I need to do, and I'm going to work hard at it. And I think what I've learned since then is there's just a lot of value in taking the next step forward, focusing, working hard, being smart about it, and learning. And if you do all those things, you're going to set yourself apart from a lot of other people, even people who might be better academically than you are. So that was my origin story, but I think Annie can pick it up almost in timeline order, right? Because you graduated right after I did.
Yeah, pretty much. So when I graduated, I got a degree in film. And when I graduated, I jumped right into casting for film and television. And the market was pretty bad at that point as well. We lived in the Dallas area and things were shifting to Austin. And like if you lived in Texas, you just should have moved to Austin if you wanted to be in that career. But I didn't. And so things were really drying up. And so I was like, well, maybe I should get my a theater teaching certification to fall back on or something. And so I was doing that while I was casting, and then I did a little bit of marketing. And what's really ironic, though, during this whole time, what I wish I would have known then that I know now is that the thing that would have helped me the most was probably a business degree. I mean, still getting the film degree, but at least having a couple of business classes so that I could know how to market myself as a casting director and how to have more freedom by being better at business. A lot of creative jobs focus on the creative job, like focus on being really good at that thing, but they don't really teach you how to be a good business person and be able to thrive in that environment. And so that's kind of a piece that I was missing. So after that, after a very short-lived career in casting, I stayed at home with kids for 10 years. And during that time, I was trying to keep things on my resume because I knew that it would be really hard to jump back into work. And so I was doing like some lifestyle blogging and some personal finance software blogging for a software company, and tried an interior decorating startup, which failed largely because I didn't have a very good business acumen at the time. And wanted to get back into the workforce full time after my kids were old enough, and decided to get into tech. Like Michael basically convinced me. It was a tough sell too, because I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm a creative. This is not me. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, why do you think I can do this? And he basically convinced me to learn this one technology at the time called InSpec. So there was a tool for configuration management called Chef, and they had bought this small startup called InSpec, which was an open source framework for testing and auditing your applications and your infrastructure and whatnot. And he knew that they were marketing to security and compliance teams who had no coding experience at all. And he thought, wow, this might be good for Annie, because I had no coding experience at all. They said that it was human readable, human writable. People should be able to catch on to it very quickly. So he was like, you know what, give it 2 weeks. And then you can like document what you're good at, or document your learning, which is what you're already good at, which is the blogging piece, and use what you're good at to showcase your learnings, and then just kind of go from there, give it 2 weeks. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. I should just go get my MBA. Like, this is not going to work. But I was like, you know what, I'll give it 2 weeks. So we basically studied like until midnight every night. He was helping me ramp up. I was doing all this blogging. I basically created the beginning documentation for that tool and made a lot of connections along the way. I was doing a lot of free marketing for them, basically, because I was telling them, oh my gosh, it actually worked. Like, I was actually able to learn this thing. And if I can, you definitely can. And so like that was putting out some goodwill into the world, because it was authentic. It was like mutually beneficial. I made a lot of connections along the way. And long story short, it led to my first job as an Azure consultant, as a cloud automation engineer, and did that for many years. And, as a consultant, you just are thrown in the frying pan and you learn everything very quickly. So that's what I did for a long time. And then from there, I was able to go to HashiCorp and was a senior engineer there for the Terraform Enterprise team. And I just left there a couple of years ago to start people work. But again, what I like looking back, and I'm very biased right now because I'm thinking a lot about business acumen and whatnot, but I do kind of wish that I had a grounding in some business acumen while I was doing my technology career as well, because I feel like it would have helped me to have a well-rounded view of what I had to offer and how to sell my projects, basically, and be able to communicate up like what I was doing and the value of it and all of that stuff. So yeah, that's my story. If you've ever read the book Range, it's about having a range of different careers and experiences, and that kind of adds to your who you are and what you have to offer in a career and stuff. That's basically the story of my life. So I just like to try everything.
Ranger's a great book. David Epstein, great author, putting out a lot of great content as well. There's like one thing I want to kind of like focus on and think about a little bit is a theme you brought up. I think for creatives, for technologists, it's something we kind of really realized later on in our career. Like, hey, I wish I was better at presenting this model or understanding business realities, or like why this org change happened, because you could start reading the economic tea leaves, as it were. A bit of kind of like a different question I have is, like, how do you, now that you kind of have started to ramp up more of that business acumen, how do you now let that kind of the grim reality take over kind of the creative outlook, kind of the rose-colored glasses that you need as an artist and as a creative, or as a technologist, as a hacker? And this question is for both of you. Yeah.
I don't see that it dims my creative light at all. Like, if anything, it amplifies it, because I feel like I'm able to better communicate what I bring, like better communicate the creative part that I'm bringing to the world in a way that people can hear it. And I think that a lot of the creative careers are long tail, which, like if you think of a graph, the long tail means that like the fewest amount of people are making the most amount of money, and then everybody else just kind of makes peanuts. And I was just like, gosh, I'm done with long tail careers, because it's so frustrating. It's like you have to get some big break in order to make it, in order to succeed in that area. But what I'm realizing, the older I get and the further into my own startup that I get, is that it's really just a matter of being able to communicate your value in a way that people understand the monetary value of it for themselves, for the business, for the world. And back in my 20s or in college even, I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to sell out and get a business degree or get take any business classes, because I don't want to work in some, high rise with a dead soul, And now I'm seeing that it's not that at all. Like, having business acumen gives me freedom to be able to do what I want, because I'm able to take my creative side and know how that fits into the market. And so it's the opposite of like being a cog in some high rise. Not that if you work in a high rise,
That's
you're a
okay.
cog.
You can do that.
But that was my my vision of it as a college student and an early 20s person. But yeah, I see it the opposite now. I see it as a way of being able to be independent. So yeah.
Yeah, and for me, like especially in my 20s, I would go down these intellectual rabbit holes of creativity that were very very satisfying, and that's a part of growth. So I would say if somebody's in their 20s and they're going down a creative rabbit hole and they may not know where it goes, great. But as I'm in my 40s, it's not very satisfying to be very creative when it has no impact and nobody cares. Like I want to help people. And so business is a great way of saying you're wasting your time. Like, what's the revenue? What are the expenses? How is your marketing plan? And that helps with my creativity, because it tells me in no uncertain terms where my attention is pointed in a good direction, where it's not. And my expression of creativity is the outcome that it creates, more than it is my intellectual curiosity. I think both are important, and I wouldn't want to turn anybody, especially early on in life, away from that, because like our kids are going down some very creative paths, and we support that, and I think it's really good for that. But at some point you start to really worry about, or want, this impact or legacy that you want to build in other people, and that's where business can really help.
Incredible. This is a lot of great insights, kind of from all kind of different vantage points and viewpoints of it. Love that topic. Let's talk about the present. Let's talk about the current moment. Would love to hear all about your startup, the product.
We started People Work a couple of years ago. I left HashiCorp to start this first. I left first and Michael left after me. He was at Splunk. And so I got it ramped up. And my career took a lot of twists and turns, as I said. And along the way, people would ask me, like, how do you get into technology? How did you do it? They would kind of want my formula. And I was like, there's not a formula necessarily, but um, the underlying thing that I always tried to do is just like have a give first mentality, put good out into the world, not so that it can lead to opportunities, but just because I believe in it and it's a good mentality for networking. And so I just thought, I'm just going to do the right thing, put good out into the world, write this blog, help other people out because it's probably going to help me in return, not because somebody's going to give me some handout, but because I'm learning things as I go. I'm proving out my theories. I'm um, developing connections, all of this stuff. And so I didn't necessarily have a formula, a one size all type of thing, but there were some underlying values and underlying philosophies that made what I did applicable to what other people could do as well. And so we basically decided to create people work out of creating that sort of energy force for people's career, having a platform to help them to create this network of people that they want to give to, that they want to be intentional about. And um, as AI takes over more of our technical work, of course, then the professionals, we've seen this already, the professionals that will win will be the ones who invest in what's really always driven outcomes, which is the human side of things. So it's trust, it's alignment, it's influence, it's collaboration, all of those things, being able to navigate complex human systems. And so right now in this moment, as we're creating people work, I'm also getting my MBA so that, um, uh, which is why the business acumen side of things is so on my mind heavy right now. But I'm able to implement my learnings directly into what we're doing at People Work, which is actually ironically giving me a lot of freedom. Like I talked about earlier, like I really didn't want to do it. I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm 46 years old. I don't want to go back to school. This is ridiculous. But what I'm finding is that it's really like amplifying what I'm able to do. And so that's been really cool. And it's just an example of how we try to run people work. We're trying to do things on our terms so that it gives the users more freedom, it gives us more freedom. And yeah, that's where I'm at right now. Michael, what about you?
Yeah, so to add to the why of what we're doing, which leads us to right now, is just we just find that um, people who are consistent and intentional about the small number of relationships around them in a professional context, we're talking like 10 people. People who are consistent and intentional about those 10 people are the people who achieve unusually good results. And if you look at any VP, SVP, CEO at a large company and you talk to them, go to lunch with them, those people were intentional and consistent about important relationships around them, and they continue to be today. And so what we're trying to do is create software that gets that kind of system in the hands of normal people like you and me. And that's just a software that helps, what are your 10 relationships? How can I be consistent? How can I be intentional about those? And that's basically what we're doing. Um, the challenge that we're facing right now that's really interesting. So Annie is um, doing the business side. She's also very technical, so we collaborate technically. I do most of the coding, and so I'm going down. This is February 2026. I'm going down the AI agent rabbit hole, and just trying to figure out the right balance of velocity and what I'm capable of doing, but also creating a great experience out of that. There's a lot of people online right now who are just talking about how they can code everything overnight, it feels like. And I am not achieving those experiences at the quality level that Annie expects. But also it's a good thing. And so the creativity I'm experiencing right now is both around being able to understand the true capabilities of LLMs, but also understand it in a very practical way. Like I'm not there to necessarily get everyone's attention, although that might be good, but I'm there to like create a product that that people can rely on for in a secure way, and they can trust, and they can trust us, and all that is really important. And it's not something that you just sort of ignore as it's flying by the conveyor belt. So that's the big challenge I'm facing right now on a technical level.
So I have some follow-up questions, but I first want to kind of just like, if we were kind of to give the 30-second pitch for what people work is and who it serves, what would that 30-second pitch be?
People Work helps you with the 10 to 20 relationships in your professional life that you want to stay intentional about. It's a platform that helps you to not let any of your connections with them or commitments to them fall through the cracks. And it's a very practical way of separating people into 4 different groups so that your intention for them can be purposeful. So we've got the group that you want to guide, that you want to align with, that you want to partner with, and that you want to network with. And each of those groups have different purposes, and you'll create an intention around that for them in a way that fits that relationship.
One thing that I noticed in kind of doing my homework on your company is a very unique value proposition, I feel, is that your app is locally hosted. So there's a lot of like privacy. You're trusting your company with a lot of sensitive information, and there's an expectation you just can have of privacy.
Yes, that is absolutely right. Thank you for for pointing that out. Privacy first is our number one value, and it's because we've seen so many apps, mostly HR type apps that claim that they're helping you to build this relational intelligence like we are, but we just really don't believe that it can happen unless you have an environment where you feel the freedom to be honest and vulnerable. And you can't be honest and vulnerable when you think that somebody else is reading your stuff. So this is not a platform that we want you to be putting, egregious information notes about your coworkers, of course. Like you would never do that because, professionals are not that stupid that you would put something that could endanger your career in a platform. So you wouldn't do that. But if you want to have the freedom to say, man, things just aren't working with this manager that I've got right now. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. If HR read that, there would be red flags and, there would be something. You'd probably have a meeting with someone later and you're like, oh my gosh, how did they even find that out? It's because they were surveilling you. That's how they know.
Yeah.
But it could be that you write it down in our private platform. And then the next week you're like, oh, wait, things seem fine now. Like something worked out. I was able to align with them on this project or whatever. Like you want to be able to have your feelings and notice them and it be a normal relationship. I think we really, because of our litigious society and surveillance society of professional life, we really fear like having real human relationships with our coworkers, but that's what they are. And in this age of AI, we need to lean on that more and more because, our technical work is going to be taken up by agents and whatnot. And, obviously we still need to have those architectural skills and those problem solving skills and all of that. But we also really need human skills and we need to allow ourselves to have like real relationships with our professional coworkers and have the relational intelligence to understand what that looks like in a professional setting. And so that's why privacy is such a big value prop for us. Michael, did you want to say anything about that?
Yeah. And if I could just add to that, like when I was at my previous company, I was terrible at stakeholder management. I chose the wrong stakeholders, and for the wrong stakeholders, I was not regular with how I communicated to them and making sure that I was supporting them and that they could support me. And I mean, that's not bad, but if I put I'm terrible at stakeholder management in my HR system, I would never do that. And it's just interesting for us. We've been using this software for over a year now. Annie's been using it longer. That the amount of clarity that you can get whenever you see you have a place that's yours, and you say, okay, I'm not going to focus on LinkedIn 500 connections, and I'm not going to worry about any of this other stuff. There are these 10, 15 people, and who are the people that I'm supporting to the broader vision of this mission that I'm on at my company. And that's probably some element of that's not going well, and I have the safety to be able to say that in a simple way in a software, and the software guides me to a better place through just intentionality and consistency. Like the privacy thing, we just could not let go of it. It's probably better to go to, not that we're going to investors, but it would be good to go to investors and say, we have all these people's data. We can harvest it with AI. We can do all this stuff. And that's just not what solves the problem. We want to solve the problem. We want to help people. We want to leave that legacy. And that's why we're doing this.
If you're going to use agent integration with it, because there's a CLI that allows you to, I use it with Claude Code. And of course, I've got my privacy locked down, so I'm not training the model on all my relationship stuff. It's very important. But it also helps me to see, like, I don't know, one day I was just having a bad day and I was about to meet with I don't remember who it was, somebody in
A
my
mentor,
community.
right?
I think it was a mentor or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I feel like, I don't know, I just felt like it wasn't going well. And then I was kind of having a talk with Claude about it. It sounds so cheesy, but and one way that we've trained our agent with people work is like, you're not a counselor. Don't even try to be a counselor. Don't even try to be a life coach. You're just there to present the data back to the person so that they can build their own relational intelligence. So I was like, look, I don't think something's wrong. What's going on? And Claude was like, well, your last, 5 meetings with this person were actually going really well. You talked about X, Y, and Z. They are, I don't know. It just gave me data back. And it was so useful to be like, oh yeah, like maybe I'm just having an insecure day. And that's why I think it's not going well,
Mhm.
And so then we went on, it gave me some talking points. It was like, you've had these questions in the past. Maybe you can ask about X, Y, and Z. You've got these current goals. That's the other thing is I have it in my repo for people work. And so it knows like what's on my U-Track board. It knows what's on my content stuff. Like it knows everything about people
Active
work.
users.
Yeah, it knows about my
Yeah.
active use. It knows everything. So it was like, well, maybe you can ask about how to do this or how to do that or whatever. And it was just so like, it made that meeting so much better than it would have been if I would have just walked into it and been like feeling crummy. You know what I mean? Like I actually
Yeah.
went in with data and I went in with a new attitude because I saw that the data was going well. So
Or the
anyway,
other
yeah.
side of that is like when you say, "Hey, Claude, I'm going in to this meeting with so and so. Read all my emails ever and my Slack messages ever, and tell me something I should think about." You're like dumping it with all this
It's
context.
too much.
Whereas like what Annie had done is she put the goal of the relationship, 5 meetings with small amounts of notes. What should I talk about next? And then that small context window fed through an LLM that was on her terms, her LLM, like led to with the right tone, it leads to a better outcome than just, listen to every word I ever say, put it in the cloud, and spit back to me a slot machine pull of a guess of what I should think about, like it's a tarot reading or something. So it wasn't that, and that's what we're so excited about.
From everything we've spoken about to the product design and development, the intentionality of kind of that very personal user-driven experience kind of comes through very strongly. To think about the future a little bit, let's say we're going to pick on Sequoia because I feel like it. Sequoia walks up, they want to write you kind of a blank check to kind of exponentially kind of grow the startup. Would you want to steer more into the kind of the personal productivity space, or would it be like, hey, let's take what we're doing and scale this for enterprise level CRMs? Yeah.
I think that, well, one reason that we're bootstrapped is because we don't want investor pressure. We want it to be useful to people. And as soon as it's not useful to people, then like, why do it? I don't know. I guess there are reasons to do it, but monetary reasons. But
Yeah.
in order to keep to our values, and the reason that we started this in the first place is that we just want to help people have the careers that they want to have. And so in order to do that, we've stayed bootstrapped because we have very low operating costs, like super low. Like this could go on for the rest of our lives and we could be the only users, or we could offer it for free for thousands of people and it would still be fine. So our operating costs are extremely low. Even if it only helps a small amount of people, it'll be around indefinitely. So, like, I don't see, I mean, if somebody wants to like throw a ton of money at us, we would say, well, these are our criteria, like we still want it to stay private. We still have an enterprise story. They just have to be okay with it being private. We have encryption coming up. And so it's not currently encrypted, but it will be in a couple months. And so there will be a story around enterprise teams being able to use people work. And even if their company surveils their computers, they still won't be able to surveil your people work. And so we're just going to say like, that's a non-starter. Like it has to be private. There is a anti-litigation story on that. Like HR is so worried that, there's going to be some sort of data in there that's going to get them sued or whatever. But the story around that is that if it's encrypted, if it's their data, it's the same as writing in a paper journal. And so they're not culpable, they're not liable rather for the employee's data when they have no access to it. They're just allowing them a private space to have their feelings. And so, and again, we're telling our users, like, be smart about what you put in there. Because again, it's not super helpful to be like extreme in your writing anyway. It doesn't help Claude.
It's not helpful for your brain.
It's not helpful for your brain either. Yeah.
I
That's
hate that person. That's probably not a good idea to
No,
write
it's
that
too
down.
extreme. So just, yeah. So anyway, a few years from now, we still want to be a mom and pop software company that delivers, because AI is helping us with our operations. It's helping a 2-person team be like a 10, 15
More than
person
2-person team. Yeah.
More than 2-person at least. We are not trying to be the next unicorn. We're growing our consulting arm of things on the side so that we can help teams to implement people work in their environments, kind of like I did, like I was talking to you about how I use Claude Code in my people work repo. We're consulting on helping teams to do stuff like that. We're hoping to grow that more in the future. We're making the tool available on every platform so that people can use it wherever they work. And we're trying to be the thing that's still here in 10 years because it just actually works and the economics are real. And I don't think we need a ton of venture capital to make that happen. We just need to provide value to users.
Underlying what Annie's talking about is I think that there's a real shift in software right now. And the people like Sequoia have been funding people to go to the moon with their software company. And in order to go to the moon, they have to attract a lot of users. And the software maybe isn't front stage, but the business model of growth is center stage for the people. And that because software costs a lot of money, they end up becoming successful at that. And then everybody ends up having enterprise software that they kind of don't like, but they feel stuck with. And I think that there's a new era of software that's fun to use, that puts you in the driver's seat as a user, that you don't feel stuck with, and that there are these niche markets that are built around people who can make those software and make a good living out of it. And I don't necessarily think that the launch your company to the moon and that's the only way I can do this kind of model is as effective as it was 5-10 years ago or even 2 years ago. And so what we're trying to do is just build it a different way. Like, what if we just delighted people, and what if we solved a problem and did it with excellence and humanity, but with technology, and didn't need to didn't need to grow to the moon with it, and just had a service. So that's our approach.
Again, it's definitely a delight speaking to you both in terms of like how the mindset and the product development, it's a through line. It's one of intentionality. It's one of building, I feel like a term that you have both been speaking about, building that relational intelligence and seeing how it impacts your life and your career. This was incredible. Definitely encourage everyone to check out People Work, and to follow both Annie and Michael. Great content on LinkedIn as well. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you
us.
so much for having us. You're a delight also, and it was just really fun to get to tell our story. So thanks for having us.